So if you want to ask me what's
Yeah.
happening with Bendy and the Dark Revival, they were not happy with the build that they were doing, and they were going to throw everything out, just like they did with the ending of Bendy and the Ink Machine. And the people behind it were like, no, you can't do that. You paid us to make this. You already did it with Bendy. We don't want you to do it with this one too. So Meatly is like, so it's treason then. So, we are going to be doing a discussion today. Today's discussion is going to be about Bendy and the Dark Revival, or the game that isn't going to be made ever. Um, there's a lot of reasons why I say that, but just like I've done with another video, I'm going to be linking multiple videos in the description that you can go and watch, which goes far more in depth on this. There are multi-hour videos talking about what happened with Joey Drew Studios and everything going on. It's really ironic that they renamed the fucking studio to Joey Drew Studios because of the way that they treated their employees, but we'll talk about that in a minute. There's a lot of reasons to think that this isn't going to happen, and the reason why I'm playing as Toon Meow Schools is because of the creator of Bendy said that this is a ripoff. So I thought that it would be funny to have this as my main fucking character for this. But so the reason why I think this game isn't going to happen is because they are actually getting sued. And this is something that's not being talked about by people. Joey Drew Studios is being sued. Now we don't know what the lawsuit is, but I think it's because they delayed Bendy and the Dark Revival after the company who makes the toys and the merch already made toys and merch for it. You can
Yeah.
get toys and merch for a game that doesn't exist. You can get Bendy and the Dark Revival stuff even though there's no Bendy and the Dark Revival game. So I think that Joey Drew Studios told the company making the toys to halt on the toys and halt on the merch while they restructured everything. And they didn't like that, and they are suing him because of that. They're suing him for a ridiculous amount of money, but to be fair, it's a ridiculous amount of money they probably would have made if he had just made the game. But
Well, he really fucked them over by doing that.
the Meatly and some guy named Mike are like the two main people who are behind this game. But really, they're not the talent of the game.
Mm-mm.
Most of the builds that people liked were made by a completely different team, and the assets were made by completely different people. And you want to know something nice about that?
What? What
All those
happened?
people have been fired. They're
Oh,
all
yeah.
fired. Everyone excluding Meatly and like a couple other people who were responsible for the original Bendy, they're fired. They're gone. They're not there anymore.
Yep.
And these are
Nope.
people who were defending Meatly, people who were defending him when he was called out before, and
Mm-hmm.
they're all fired. They don't work there anymore. So a lot of the
Really
people who
sad.
made the original Bendy what it was is gone. And one of the people who was responsible for making the original Bendy what it was, the guy who made the 3D models, he said that Bendy and the Dark Revival should have been done a year ago. And this was a
Not
year ago when he
surprised.
said that. And
Yeah.
Bendy and the Dark Revival, we have yet to see actual gameplay. We have yet to see any actual like storyline from it. We have yet to see anything from it other than some teaser images and a couple of characters. So we have nothing from this
Mm-hmm.
game. So if you want to ask me what's
No.
happening with Bendy and the Dark Revival, they were not happy with the build that they were doing, and they were going to throw everything out, just like they did with the ending of Bendy and the Ink Machine. And the people behind it were like, no, you can't do that. You paid us to make this. You already did it with Bendy. We don't want you to do it with this one too. So Meatly is like, so it's treason then. And everyone got fucking fired and executed Order 66, and now they're rebuilding the game from scratch. Everything will have to be rebuilt because they fired everybody. They fucking
Yep.
fired everyone, and that's just speculation. But chances are, if you fire the guy who made the 3D models, and you fire the people who made the music, you fired the writers, chances are they're not going to be happy with their work getting into the final product. And I know there isn't much
Yeah.
they can do legally, but you probably don't want to pay royalties to these guys if they hate you. And chances
Mhm.
are they're going to shit talk you the whole time if you include their stuff in your version of the game that they
Oh,
were dissatisfied
absolutely.
with. What would happen is, this is all alleged. No one knows. No one
Yeah.
knows truly. But what would happen is, allegedly, is that the people making the game would be told to make the game. They'd work on the game
Mhm.
for months on end, and then Meatley and Mike would show up and be like, "Okay, show us what you're working on." And then they'd be like, "Oh no, I don't like that. Time to
Mhm.
change that." It wasn't even it's up for discussion. It's like, no. And if you tried to argue with them, which is what happened at the end of Bendy and the Ink Machine, the original game, they will take the code, lock themselves away in a room, and change it without your permission anyway.
Yep. And they
The
get
whole final
pissy.
chapter of Bendy was made by Meatley and Mike alone, supposedly, because the people who made the original ending of Bendy said that that's not the ending that they worked on. And from the videos I've linked in the description, one of them points out something I've never even realized about Bendy until like it was pointed out. That being that Bendy is a giant fucking Bioshock ripoff, and that the second game
Yeah.
was doubling down on ripping off Bioshock. So I'm like, you're having to restart this game from scratch, and it's just a Bioshock ripoff anyway. What are you going
Mhm.
to do with this? Now since you've lost your whole team that was responsible for making the game, like, and all you've done is just make Bioshock but with 1930s cartoons. Like,
Mhm.
where do you go from that? You're not original. You're not the fucking creatives behind it. The only thing you did was come up with the idea. Other people did the work and made your thing a reality, and you got rid of those people. Like, I hate
Mhm.
to be this guy because everyone's this guy right now, but this is literally what happened with Joey Drew Studios. They got rid of everyone that made Bendy good, and then Bendy fell apart. Like, they've become the actual Joey Drew Studios. And the irony is just too much for me to ignore. Like, the fact that they made a game about an egotist who was so obsessed with himself and making money that he missed the point of creating, and then he ended up being consumed by his creation. And now they're that guy. Like, Meatley and Mike together are that guy. And they don't see the irony in it. This game has been delayed, and from what it's delayed indefinitely right now. There's no set
Mhm.
release date. But
No.
from what the
I
people
honestly
who were
don't think it's
actually
going to come out.
from what the people who are actually working on the game said is that it was close to being done. So I think they've completely restarted, and this is going to be like Yandere Simulator or Duke Nukem Forever, where it's a passion project, and Meatley and Mike will never make up their fucking mind. Chances are Joey Drew Studios is gonna go fucking bankrupt, and then someone else will have to fucking finish this game. And when it releases, whoever absorbs the IP, it will not be anywhere near the game it was meant to be. Just look
No,
this
more
up.
than likely
Look
not.
this up, and it's happened so many times. It's happened with The Thief and the Cobbler. It's happened with Yandere Simulator. Well, not quite yet. It's still ongoing with that one. And it happened with Duke
Eventually.
Nukem. Like with Duke Nukem,
Yeah.
they lost all the rights to Duke because they spent so long trying to make that game that like the company went broke. They went broke because they didn't have any games coming out because their big flagship game was being held hostage by developers who didn't want to finish it.
Mhm.
Like,
Yep.
for as much as I want to say game development is an art, it's also a business, and you
Yeah,
have to
absolutely.
release a product eventually. It has been 3 years since the main Bendy game came out, and within those 3 years, all people have gotten is a shitty mobile game that links to a merch store that's no longer available, and
Mhm.
a Boris spin-off, which I've heard middling reviews about and didn't sell anywhere near as good as the Bendy shit. You can still buy Bendy toys and stuff in Walmart, but it's all outdated Bendy merch, and there's no new Bendy thing. Meanwhile, look at the Chad FNAF, who's been releasing games every fucking year just about. Look at the
Yeah.
fucking the Virgin Hello Neighbor, who releases a game every few years. Like, Bendy fell behind, like, majorly. I
Yeah.
remember when Bendy was, like, catching up to FNAF and fucking
Hmm.
stomped on Hello Neighbor. I was heavily into Bendy. I really loved the music, like the remixes people did. I was heavily into, like, the lore theory videos. I really fucking love Bendy, and I've been following it since Demo 1. And I was really hyped about the concept, because I'm big into cartoons. Like, in case you didn't notice from this channel. I'm big into cartoons, and 1930s rubber hose cartoons are really fucking appealing to me. And from what I was seeing from Bendy and from what everyone was doing with the storyline what ifs and stuff, it seemed like an interesting concept. But you could tell by the end of the game that they had no idea where the storyline was going, and that they were
Yeah,
willing to just
no.
change the story at a fucking heartbeat to fuck with theorists. And it's like, when you
Yeah.
get that involved into the theorist scene to where you're changing your product just to fucking go against expectations, I think you miss the point of creation. And it
Hmm.
got to a point where MatPat even pseudo called it out in a video, saying that a game changed its direction because of game theory. He didn't name names,
Yeah.
but he also did bring up um, both Bendy and the Ink Machine and Hello Neighbor in that video. And I think it's safe to say Hello Neighbor didn't change its story, because Hello Neighbor didn't have a story. So
No.
I think it's
It
safe to
simply
say
made a
Bendy
story.
was the one that changed its story. When Matt
Yeah,
Pat threw shade
absolutely.
saying someone changed their story for him, it's Bendy. Chances are it's Bendy.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really liked the idea of Bendy. I really liked the concept of Bendy. Like,
Yeah.
I like the rubber hose aesthetic. I like the I like the general theming around cartoons coming to life and killing people. That's a horror that I think isn't tapped into enough, and
Honestly, yeah.
someone really should capitalize on that. I think it would make a good short horror story, and I still think Bendy, as a concept, can work. I just think
Yeah.
that it needs better people behind it. Like, there needs to be someone more competent at the helm of Bendy in order for this thing to really succeed. Because the Meatly, he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Meatly and whoever the fuck Mike is, they just can't figure out what the fuck they're doing with this project. Like, they have something that's like a license to print money, and they're not utilizing it to its full extent. Like, they could do so much more with this idea, with this IP, but instead, it just feels like wasted potential. It feels like
Yep.
something that could have been, but won't be, because of the arrogant people behind it. And I'm telling you this now, if Bendy and the Ink Machine, The Dark Revival, ever comes out, it won't be anything like what it is. They had a puppet game that came out that also had to be completely rebuilt, and it ended up becoming a meh game because of it. So
Yeah.
it's either it won't get released, or if it does get released, it's not going to be anywhere near the game that it was supposed to be. So
No.
I'm not hyped for Bendy and the Ink Machine, The Dark Revival. I think it'll be years before we even see anything from it, and I think it'll be years before it comes out, if it ever does come out. I'm gonna keep following the
Hmm.
Meatly stuff. I'm gonna keep following the lawsuit and see where that goes. If you guys are more interested in learning about this, click on the multi-hour videos in the description below.